evening, Buff fans. Welcome to this week's episode of Sko Buffs Lives, where we break down everything going on in the world of CU. My name is Colby Wyatt.
And my name is Zachary Giesenschlag. We have a busy episode today as our teams are really starting to feel what it's like to be in the Big 12. Let's get this week started with a preview from two of our own as they break down the upcoming CU and Kansas State football game.
Hello, Buff fans. I am Nicholas Evans. Welcome to the inception of our pregame looking at the CU Buffs football for the week to come. I'm joined by Trent Finnegan. How you doing this week, Trent?
I'm doing great. I'm ready to talk ball. We got a big game, 8:15 on ESPN tomorrow night. Kansas State comes to town. Number 18 ranked Kansas State, I should say. Going to be a fun one. Should be good weather tomorrow, not dumping rain like the Baylor game was. So I'm excited. This stadium should be loud. If it's not loud, we're going to have some problems with all you CU students out there because this is an important game. It should be a fun one.
Yeah, it's one of the biggest challenges they've had so far this year, but it's also one of the biggest they're going to have ever. I mean, they're playing Utah, they're playing Oklahoma State, but Kansas State, apart from BYU, they look to be the front runners for owning this conference. If they can win this week, such a huge implication this would have. It would make shockwaves in this conference.
Definitely. And you talk about the Big 12. The Big 12 is so interesting this year. You know, like Kansas State, they're always playing good. They're always supposed to be at the top. They're always a great program. But Utah's a little weird, and they're playing Zach Wilson's little brother, and everyone knows how the Wilson family does when playing football. So that's not going too well. Cam Rising should be back. I don't know. But then, like, Texas Tech is at the top of the conference right now. Iowa State looks good. BYU's looking really good. While Oklahoma State and Arizona, they're kind of tipping down. So every conference game is huge. And if you can win these big ones, like what the Buffs have tomorrow night, it would have huge positive implications for them in terms of hopefully making it to Arlington for that Big 12 championship game.
Yeah, I mean, this is our first year watching this conference so tentatively, and I mean, every game that I've watched, it feels like no team is beatable in this conference, and it just feels like it's Colorado's to take.
Yeah.
So with that, how can Colorado beat Kansas State?
Well, we saw the recipe against UCF was stopping the run, and this linebacker core leads the way. Nakai Hill-Green, Levante Bentley, they've combined for 51 tackles for the Buffs so far this season. Held UCF to 177 yards. And people are like, wow, 177 is so a lot. They were averaging 375 yards coming into that game. So same deal with Kansas State. They know what they're doing. They love running the ball. Holding them to 180 yards, I'd say, is a good benchmark. That's really getting it done. Holding them anywhere under 250, you have a chance. If they run the ball for 300 yards, it's going to be a tough one for the Buffs to win. Kansas State got DJ Giddens, number 31. He's such a good running back. He's got an unteachable balance of burst and power, which as soon as he breaks a tackle, he's off running past the third level, past those safeties. So, and then Avery Johnson got another running quarterback they got to face this week. A lot different than KJ Jefferson. KJ Jefferson, big, 250 pounds. He's running up the middle. Avery Johnson's a little guy. He's running outside, and he's a track star. He is so fast. So, Buffs need to stay disciplined in their pass rush lanes. If they lose contain on Johnson, if they leave open gaps so he can run up the middle, it's going to be a long day. So that's the important thing for today. Stopping the run and stopping the QB.
Yeah, and you want to talk frustrated. I mean, so many careless penalties, especially on defense. I mean, you'll get your occasional false starts, having to take timeouts because they weren't ready on offense. But on defense, I mean, the discipline hasn't been, I'm sure, where Coach Prime wants it to be.
No, not at all. And this week, Shiloh Sanders comes back from injury, and he's the ultimate 15-yard penalty king here at Colorado. So, and it's killer. You know, you have a 3rd and 6. Let's say you have a 3rd and 6. You get the stop, crowds into it. You force them to punt, get the ball back in the offense's hand. But you hit a guy late out of bounds, 15 yards. 15 yards, like that's a lot, and a free first down, kills the momentum. Like you said, like false starts are going to happen. No team's going to go sit there with 0 penalties in a game. But the Buffs have had a lot of games with 10-plus penalties so far this season. They got to clean it up. That defense, like you said, has got to be disciplined. And especially in a physical game like this one where Kansas State wants to run the ball and that CU defense is going to be flying downhill at them. Got to make sure you keep your head up, avoid the targeting, and then after the play, just if he's out of bounds, I know it's fun. I know it's fun to hit somebody really hard. And I know Shiloh with his headache gang thing thinks it's really fun as well. You got to be smart, though, and you got to look out for your team in the bigger picture of things.
Yeah, and you think about how good the D-backs have been for Colorado, and that was without Shiloh, and you're kind
Shiloh.
of wondering like, how does Shiloh come back in this, but also keep the high level that these D-backs have been playing?
I think, well, you saw on the depth chart this week, he's listed right now as second string, which I like that to kind of roll him back in. As Cam Silman-Craig, he's totally taken control as the leader of this defense so far. He had that 95-yard fumble return for a touchdown against UCF 2 weeks ago. It's crazy that game was 2 weeks ago already.
The bye week.
But the big thing with Shiloh being out is that Carter Stoutmeyer has gotten a ton of reps. He was playing some corner last year, moved into safety this year. He got a lot of reps in, and he's been playing some good ball too. He hasn't been making the headlines that Cam Silman-Craig has with all the tackles and whatnot, but he has been in every play. He's not making any dumb mistakes. He's doing what he needs to do. So now when Shiloh comes back, now you just have depth because you've got a vet in Shiloh. Stoutmeyer's getting his experience back, and Silman-Craig's a vet as well. Those two are both, Shiloh and Silman-Craig, both Jackson State guys. So it only helps as long as Shiloh keeps his head up when he tackles and stays smart and doesn't make any dumb plays in the passing game with being over-aggressive. So I think it would be good for him to have him back.
Yeah, and I guess moving on to Colorado's offense, I really do like the odds of Colorado's, specifically the wide receivers against the D-backs for Kansas State. The pass rush, on the other hand, that's going to be a big question mark headed into this.
Yeah, and Kansas State, their pass defense is 100th in the country. They allow 244 yards per game out of 133 teams. So we say it every week. It's the same thing every week. You got to keep Shedeur Sanders clean in that pocket. Offensive line, they're getting better every week for sure. And Kansas State, so far this season, they've showed they're rushing 4 people. They're not blitzing. That might change with Colorado, but their recipe has been rush 4, drop 7, see what their D-line does. Colorado allowed 18 sacks this season, last in the Big 12. Kansas State has 12 sacks as a defense. That's first in the Big 12. So that's going to be a big point of emphasis. But if Shedeur can stay clean and get some time, we all know what this offense is capable of. It's no secret. He's going to carve him up. This Kansas State secondary is not the best secondary that Sanders and this Colorado offense will face this season. So, once again, every single week for this Colorado team, the trenches, both sides of the ball, is the key to winning.
And with that, let's move on to the predictions. I've been mulling this over a little bit. I think Colorado kind of shocks the conference. I think they put up 24. I think most importantly, though, it'll be a 2-score game at least. You're talking 24-10 maybe.
Wow, you have it low scoring. Okay.
I think Kansas State has some fits on offense, but more importantly, I think that pass defense just gets run over completely. I think the wide receiver room completely overwhelms Kansas State. And Shedeur hasn't been forcing the ball in any stupid places. I think he can
He only has 2 turnover-worthy plays this season. One was the pick against Nebraska. We don't need to talk about that anymore. It's bad.
We're talking the foot pick.
And then the pick against UCF at the start of the game last week. Other than that, he's been very good with his decisions in the pocket. So you got a low scoring. Yeah. I'm gonna have it more high scoring. I'm gonna go 38-31 Colorado. Like I said, we know what Kansas State's going to do. Their offense is potent. They got a lot of weapons on there, but so is Colorado. So I think it's going to come down to the turnover game. Kansas State, their big loss against BYU, they lost the turnover margin 3-0. The Buffs have forced 4 turnovers in 2 separate games this season, one of the only teams in the country to do so. So I think if Colorado can win the turnover game, and it's going to be close, but get an interception, get a big fumble here and there, and that's going to be just enough to push them up by 7.
Yeah, well, huge implications for the Big 12 this week, and that should about do it for our preview of the week to come. I've been Nick Evans.
I'm Trent Finnegan.
Back to you guys at the desk.
Athletics Director Rick George had lots to say in his press conference Tuesday, including his long-term goals like keeping Coach Prime in Boulder, the potential of adding a Division I baseball team, the current ever-changing NIL landscape in college football, and where he thinks the athletics program is compared to 2 years ago. Regarding Coach Prime staying in Boulder, George said, quote, "We hope that Coach Prime finishes his career here. He and I are on the same page about where we want this program to go," end quote. Encouraging words from an AD and program that desperately wants to keep the Prime effect rolling in Boulder for years to come. George was also asked about the possibility of bringing back baseball at the Division I level, which has been demoted to club level since 1980 due to budget cuts. George said, quote, "That's something I'd love to have at some point in the future, but it's not something that's going to happen in the near future. Buffs loyalists will have to live with club baseball for now," end quote. On the potential changes coming to college football with NIL, George said, quote, "There was a preliminary approval of the House settlement yesterday, and I'm excited about it because it allows us some sort of guidance as to where it is going. In the meantime, it's important to us that we focus on our NIL collective, the 5-4-30 Alliance," end quote. George asserted the Athletics are, quote, "in a good spot today," adding that we probably weren't a couple years ago. A very positive series of remarks on the state of athletics.
Coach Prime had time today during Tuesday's press conference. Prime touches on several topics, including facing former Buff Dylan Edwards, players redshirting midseason, and providing an update on the overall state of the program. On facing Edwards, Prime said, quote, "I love the young man. I love him to life. Everybody who leaves the program in the right manner, as well as leaves here, period, I want them to be successful. We had some great moments, and he's going to have many more great moments. I just hope it's not against us," end quote. Prime also had choice words regarding player redshirting in the midseason, particularly about current CSU Ram Braden Fowler-Nicolsi and Torrey Horton. He said, quote, "How were you offered $600,000 and you didn't get in the portal," end quote. Prime also said he always wants what is best for the kids, but raised the question, are you redshirting for us or are you redshirting for you? On where the program stands, Prime said, quote, "You got to give me some kind of credit for knowing this game of football. I know how this thing is supposed to look. How can you be surprised with expectations you have for yourself? We shouldn't be surprised with where we are," end quote. Overall, this was a very encouraging press conference on the state of football ahead of its showdown with Kansas State this weekend.
This weekend, all eyes will be on Shiloh Sanders. The hard-hitting safety makes his much-anticipated return tomorrow against Kansas State. Shiloh was sidelined by a broken forearm, an injury that has kept him out of action since playing Nebraska. Known for his big tackles, ability to patrol the set, and his ability to patrol the secondary, his return adds much-needed depth and intensity to the Buffalo's defense. Facing a K-State team with a versatile offensive attack, Shiloh's presence could be vital to containing the Wildcats' run and limiting big plays down the field. Currently listed in the depth chart as the second-string safety, we have yet to see how much playing time Shiloh will get. This game will be a major test for Colorado, and with Shiloh back, the Buffaloes have a better chance of securing a key win in their season. His energy, coupled with his on-field production, and even just having another safety available, is something K-State will have to account for.
It's a tight race for first in the Big 12 standings going into Week 7. Texas Tech is currently in first, but only because they've played one more conference game than every other top team. Currently, they're 3-0 in conference play. Tied for second, there are 4 teams that are currently 4-0 in conference play, those teams being BYU, Iowa State, West Virginia, and of course, Colorado. With Texas Tech on a bye this week, a win versus Kansas State would make CU truly tied for first in the Big 12.
The Buffs' success in recent weeks hasn't been only thanks to Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders. Pro Football Focus has the Buffs graded highly in multiple areas as a team, and individually, left tackle Jordan Seaton has the highest pass protection grade among all true freshmen with a 75.5 grade as he continues to improve his game week after week. On the other side of the ball, the run defense has a grade of 90.5, and the linebacker core specifically is graded at an 87. Led by Nakai Hill-Green and Levante Bentley, the linebacker core showed up big against UCF and need to have a great performance tomorrow if Colorado wants to pull off the upset.
The football game against Kansas State kicks off this weekend at 8:15 p.m., the latest kickoff time for the Buffs this season. However, next weekend, the Buffs will be traveling to Tucson, Arizona to face off the Arizona Wildcats on Saturday, October 19th. That game can be caught on Fox and will kick off at 2 p.m. Mountain Time.
Let's take a break from all the football talk to bring up this week's trivia question. Now that it's getting cold out, this week we're testing your knowledge about the university's championships. The question is, which sport at the University of Colorado Boulder has produced multiple NCAA championships, including titles in both 1970 and 1980? I'll give you a hint. Think outside of the sports that we've covered today.
Buffs men's basketball team adds yet another recruit to the class of 2025. Josiah Sanders joins Jolene Holland, Ian Inman, and Isaiah Johnson in verbally committing to CU. Sanders is a 4-star, 6'4" combo guard out of Colorado Prep. Sanders verbally committed this past Monday and is ranked 16th in his position and 1st in Colorado. The Buffs now have the 31st ranked recruiting class in the nation and are looking to land 4-star big man Jaden Leverett on his visit today. The Buffs have also reportedly scheduled 4-star big man Taco Fawaz for an official visit.
The women's team also landed a recruit over the week in blue chip Logan Greer. The 4-star forward can do it all. She can bully the paint, guard the interior, and shoot from the key. That's not all though. She has a deadly accurate 3-point shot from the elbow. Her versatility is a huge reason why she was ranked 80th of women's basketball recruits on ESPN's Women's Top 100. The Swiss Army knife can't come soon enough for Colorado, as she'll be joining Coach Payne and the Buffaloes in 2025. For more information on the new recruit, you can check out Nick Evans' article on Logan Greer on our website, ScoBuffSports.com.
The men's basketball team has their annual Black and Gold scrimmage tomorrow at the CU Event Center. The scrimmage begins at 5 and will last approximately an hour, so everyone who attends will have plenty of time to make it to the football game. This will be the first chance to see a totally different Buffs team from last year, and admission is free for those who are interested in attending.
The women's soccer team wrapped up their week with a draw against Texas Tech after a rough start to the week, losing 6-1 to TCU. The Buffaloes look to bounce back against another top 25 Big 12 team. Sophomore Ava Priest scored in the 1-1 draw in the away contest against the Red Raiders. The Buffs look to bounce back from their unsuccessful week this Sunday at noon, where they take on the UCF Knights at Prentup Field. The Buffs now stand at 10-2-2 overall and 4-1-2 in conference play.
Shockingly, the soccer team has dropped out of the top 25 soccer rankings this week. The committee felt that their uncharacteristic loss to TCU was enough for CU to become unranked, and we have yet to see how they will react to the results of the game versus ranked Texas Tech. The Buffs hopefully have an easy game in Florida against the University of Central Florida on Sunday the 13th, as UCF currently only has 3 wins and only 1 in conference play. Even with the lapse against TCU, the Buffs defense has been better than UCF's, allowing less goals and shot opportunities, while also creating more opportunities on offense, with 103 shots on goal compared to UCF's 62. After Sunday's game, the team will travel to Ohio to take on the University of Cincinnati on Thursday the 17th. The Bearcats are sitting at a 6-6-1 record overall and 2 wins in Big 12 play. Jordan Knights and the defense will have to be on their A game, however, as Cincinnati has an impressive .486 shot on goal percentage. This could also be an opportunity for CU's offense to have some fun, as their opponent allows a relatively high 1.38 goals per game.
The volleyball team ended off a tough week with a win against Texas Tech. The Buffs won in a 5-set thriller as they took down the Red Raiders 3-2. The team then got a bye week, beneficial as they try to regroup for their upcoming games. The Buffs now sit at an even 8-8 record on the year. They face the University of Central Florida in Orlando on Sunday. The Knights have an 8-5 record on the year. The Buffalo team then travels to Arizona next Wednesday. The Wildcats hold a 12-4 record on the season. However, the Wildcats are only 1-4 in conference play.
The men's golf team has had a busy week. For starters, former Buff Jeremy Paul earned his PGA Tour card. Additionally, the Buffs endured a brutal opening day in the Big 12 Match Play Championship, dropping their first 2 matches, including a 5-0 drubbing against 12th-seeded TCU and a loss due to a late rally from Baylor at 3-2. The team responded in the second day of match play, besting number 14-seeded Texas Tech 3.5 to 1.5 on Tuesday's final round of pool play. The Buffs concluded day 3, the final day of pool play, with a 3-2 setback against the West Virginia Mountaineers. Overall, a shaky performance for the men's team. The squad turns their attention to the Rainbow Warriors of Hawaii, with 3 rounds of upcoming play on November 2nd, November 3rd, and November 4th in the Kanapili Classic.
The women's golf team placed 3rd at the Ron Moore Intercollegiate last weekend. Freshman Sydney Givens led the Buffs in the tournament with a score of 5 under par. Givens placed 5th among all individuals. Morgan Miller shot 4 strokes under par in the final round, pushing her up on the leaderboard to a tie at number 13. The team will travel to California to compete in the Stanford Intercollegiate starting on October 18th. It was a rebound week for baseball and hockey teams this week. We'll have all the latest from them and all of our club sports coming up after this break.
Who wants to do basketball? Who wants to do football? He wants to do soccer. He wants to do volleyball.
That's so sick. Did Christian just say that?
Videography. Anyone want to do that?
The club baseball team played a series against Colorado School of Mines last weekend, walking away with 3 wins and a great showing on the diamond. The Buffs won Game 1 off a mercy rule and got a great shutout win in Game 2. Game 3 was a high-scoring marathon, but the Buffs completed the sweep with an 18-10 victory. They get a break this weekend as they prepare for a brief doubleheader against Colorado State on October 19th, streamed exclusively on the Sco Buff Sports YouTube channel.
The men's D1 hockey team is returning from a 2-game road trip against the Missouri State Bears. The Buffs split the series, falling by a close score of 2-1 in the first game, but then responded with a dominant 8-2 win the following night. 6 different players scored for CU in their blowout win, as that game should serve as a massive confidence booster to the offense. The Buffs' next game will take place on Friday, October 18th at 8 p.m. in the CU Rec Center.
The men's D2 hockey team had another great weekend, this time sweeping their rival Colorado State Rams in a 2-game series. The Buffs won the first game at home by a score of 5-2 after jumping ahead early and holding the Rams scoreless in the third period. The Buffs would then march into Fort Collins and dominate CSU by a score of 7-2, with forward Isaac Neffs capitalizing on 2 power plays in the process. The Buffs next play on Friday, October 18th against the Wyoming Cowboys, this being the first game of 5 straight at home for CU.
The women's hockey team is off to a hot start, sitting at a record of 4-1 after this past weekend. They were victorious over Massachusetts on Friday by a close score of 2-1, but were not as successful the following night against Rhode Island. They would lose the game on Saturday by a score of 3-1, but were able to successfully rebound on Sunday, as this time they were able to come away with a win by a score of 3-1 over the same Rhode Island team. Natalie Ewald led the team with 3 goals across the weekend, and the Buffs now prepare for their next game, which takes place this Saturday against the Colorado State Rams in Fort Collins at 7:15 p.m.
The club softball team protected their undefeated record last weekend with a sweep on the road against Wyoming. The Buffs handled business in games 1 and 2, outscoring the Cowgirls by 14 runs, then having an offensive masterclass in Game 3, winning 26-13. The team has a perfect 6-0 record as they continue their season this October.
Our men's club soccer team had some good wins and also took some losses this past weekend. Let's start with Team Gold. They started out taking a loss to BYU 4-1, but came back strong the next day with a win over Mesa 2-0. Team Black had 1 game against Wyoming. The score was high, but they ended up taking the W with a score of 7-5. And finishing with Team White, they took a huge win over Metro on Saturday with a heaping score of 10-0. But following that, they lost 2-1 to the CSU Rams. If you want to watch some Buffalo soccer this weekend, you're in luck. The men's club team has you covered. Team Gold will be playing this Sunday, the 13th, against the CSU Rams at Kitt Field at 2 p.m. And although Team Black has 1 away game on Saturday against Colorado College at 4 p.m., they will be back at home to play Air Force on Sunday at Kitt Field at 12 p.m. Team White has a bye week to rest up before their next match against Northern Colorado on the 20th.
The women's club soccer teams had a very successful week of games this week. Colorado Gold took the win over 2 teams this past weekend, including Colorado Silver, with a score of 4-1 and then a large scoring win over Mines at 7-0. Colorado Black had 1 game on Sunday, taking the win over Colorado College with a score of 2-1. To finish up the women's scores, Colorado Silver took a loss to Gold 4-1, but came back and beat Colorado College 2-0 the very next day. All 3 teams are competing in the UCSB Invitational in Santa Barbara today through Sunday. Black will have 2 games, one at 3 p.m. against Long Beach and the next at 7 p.m. against UCSB. And lastly, Silver will be starting early, competing against San Diego at 9 a.m. and then Cal Irvine at 1.
It's time for Play of the Week. We asked you Buff fans on our Twitter which of these 4 plays was the very best. Was it this left-footed goal rocketed off the foot of Ava Priest of the soccer team to equalize against Texas Tech? Was it this diving snag from Thomas Klein to rob this Mines batter of extra bases? Was it this reaching grab from Andrew Garcia in foul territory? Or was it this smooth snapshot from Corey D. Ponio of the D2 hockey team? The winner will be revealed later on in the show.
Welcome back, and it is now time for our Tweet of the Week. Last Saturday, Club Baseball played the Colorado School of Mines in a doubleheader. Catcher Charlie Leich took a wild pitch off of his nether parts following their win over Mines Saturday. The Buffs baseball account celebrated with the following post. The tweet reads, quote, "Buffs win both at the cost of Charlie's reproductive abilities. I'm sure he doesn't need them anyways," end quote.
And we are back to answer our trivia question for the week. For those of you just tuning in, or those that need a reminder, the question was, which sport at the University of Colorado Boulder has produced multiple NCAA championships, including titles in both 1970 and 1980? The answer is skiing. In total, they have 21 national championship titles, recently adding one to their list back in March of this year.
And now it's time to reveal our Play of the Week. Drum roll, please. The winner, receiving a unanimous 100% of the vote, is Ava Priest. Her absolute banger from outside of the penalty box was the all-important equalizer against the Red Raiders this week.
Hello, Buff fans. My name is Giesenschlag. There are plenty of good games to attend this weekend to show your support. Starting off over on the court, CU Volleyball has a massive match this Saturday facing off against their rivals Arizona State. Meanwhile, the men's basketball team has a preseason scrimmage at home, giving Buffs a great sneak peek at the talent right before the season officially tips off. This game will occur right before the football team gears up for a major showdown at Folsom versus ranked Kansas State. Lastly, the men's gold soccer team faced off against CSU on Sunday at 2 p.m. Get ready for some fierce competition at Carriage Field. Don't miss out on any of the action, and go Buffs.
Well, that's about all we have for you this week.
How sad we have to say goodbye, but there's so much to look forward to, and I can't wait.
And neither can I. Follow us on all socials to find out how it all goes down. And tune in next week.
Thank you all for watching this week.
And don't forget, you heard it here first.